Today we are standing at a juncture in which the functionings of the government are witnessing a metamorphosis. Maximum governance and minimum government is the motto of the day. This vision can be best given life through the system of e-governance. The Government of India, in order to increase the penetration of e-governance and facilitate better delivery of services, has been taking to new age technologies such as cloud computing. The government cloud, called Meghraj, is a proactive initiative of the central government for improving the technology ecosystem and a landmark effective step for moving towards a much larger vision of the incumbent Prime Minister's good governance. So today, at Elets CloudGov 2014, we are looking forward to important deliberations from policymakers, key government officials, cloud experts, and the industry leaders. The day-long conference will be succeeded by a vibrant awards night to felicitate exemplary work done in the cloud spectrum. So now it is our privilege to invite our eminent guests on the stage. I'll start with the chief guest of the day. I request Shri R. Chandrashekhar, President NASSCOM, to please join us on the stage. A big round of applause for our guests. Now I request Shri S. N. Tripathi, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, Government of India, to please join us. I also invite Shri Rajesh Agarwal, Principal Secretary, Department of Information Technology, Government of Maharashtra. So please join us. Shri Bipul Pathak, Commissioner Secretary, Department of Information Technology, Government of Jammu and Kashmir. I invite Ma'am Renu Buddhiraja, Senior Director and Head of the Department, State Data Centers, Department of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India. Now I invite Shri Bhaskar Pramanik, Chairman, Microsoft India. Sir, please join us on the stage. And I also invite Shri Balaji, Director, VMWARE Software India Limited, to join us in the inaugural session. A big round of applause for our guests, please. Now I'll request Dr. Ravi Gupta, CEO, Elets Technomedia Private Limited, to deliver the welcome address.
Hello. Welcome to all dignitaries on the dais, especially to our mentor, our guide, Shri Chandrashekhar ji. The whole journey of eGov started when he was at the Department of IT as a Joint Secretary, and he was leading the eGov program. And the whole he inspired us to think about bringing out a magazine on e-governance, and that's how we started this whole agenda of creating awareness about ICT in governance, ICT in development, ICT in education, ICT in health, with his inspiration. So it's an honor to have you here, sir. I'm also privileged to have on the dais the Joint Secretary of MSME Department, Shri Tripathi ji. He was earlier the Secretary IT of Government of Odisha, and at our first event, which happened here in Delhi, the first India, he was our speaker, and I have seen him as an inspiration and his work in the ICT space. And it's another great honor to have both Rajesh Agarwal ji and Bipul Pathak ji on the stage. Rajesh sir has been doing some exemplary work in the field of cloud and ICTs, and you will hear him soon. And Bipul ji at a state like J&K has been taking a lot of IT initiatives, and it's a pleasure to have him here. It's also great to have Renu ji on the dais, who is leading the whole cloud program of the Government of India, Department of IT. And under her guidance and leadership, the whole program of Meghraj has been conceptualized. And our honor to have Mr. Bhaskar Pramanik, who is the head of Microsoft India, and he has been leading the ICT for development revolution in the country at Microsoft, and the whole initiatives of Microsoft in the government space and the rural space have been exemplary, and it's an honor to have him here. And we also have the pleasure of having Mr. Balaji leading the VMWARE, where virtualization and the cloud has been the key focus areas. So with this and without much ado, I would like to straight away invite Renu ji on the dais, who will provide the background landscape of this event and the whole Government of IT, Government of India's initiative on the cloud space. So Renu ji, please come on the stage.
Thank you, Ravi, and honorable dignitaries at the dais and friends here. It's a great honor for me to be here and share what the Government of India has initiated in the area of cloud. Well, just going back to the first slide, what I would try and do is to share with you that cloud is no longer a buzzword. In fact, while I go through the presentation, you will get an idea that today Government of India has not only come up with various strategies and policies, but you also have a cloud available for the departments to use for infrastructure and platform as a service. Now, what we point cloud, as far as Government of India's cloud is concerned, it's Meghraj. And of course, it's self-explanatory as far as the name goes, Megh and Raj. But going beyond, I mean, what was it really that initiated and triggered government to look at this niche technology? I think it all started almost 1.5 years back when we had the data centers across the country, and what we started seeing is, while these implementations are happening, and we have a journey where we want to see these data centers over a period of 5 years where you have the infrastructure utilization happening. But as soon as the infrastructure the data centers are set up, in a year's time today, what we started seeing is 50% of the infrastructure is being utilized, because the prime model was co-location. So what happened was, in this co-location, while the racks are getting utilized, there was not an optimum utilization of the infrastructure. We found not only the operations cost was increasing, we're also seeing that the licensing, AMC, maintenance, whole lot of these issues were emerging as a part of the data centers. Now, there is a need for so many departments to really ensure and bring their applications on board. So it was felt that while we created such a huge infrastructure, even the national data centers set up by NIC, we need to optimally utilize them. And today what we see is, if we can actually leverage new technologies like cloud, the existing infrastructure itself could be optimized in such a way that what we have in terms of the rack space could be used to serve many more departments at the state and the center. The other important thing, if you see in e-governance projects per se, is the long procurement cycles. Even if you want to bring a small applications per se, I mean, you get into a cycle of having a consultant, developing an RFP, and then getting to the long procurement of the compute, and finally an application which is developed. So it takes 8 to 10 months time. Now it is extremely important, and then what do? When we do the procurement, we start seeing, because it is extremely difficult for us to get into regular procurements. So we look at what is required, maybe say after 2 years, 3 years or 5 years, and go and buy for the peak kind of a thing. So if you see, what we do is, this whole cycle, if there is a technology which can help you expedite, I mean, if I just go, like you go on the online shopping malls, click, okay, this is what I need, this CPU, this RAM, this storage, and you are get going. I mean, you have your application, and tomorrow if you even have applications available where you just go, which are highly configurable, and you imagine the way you can expedite the delivery of the services. So this is extremely relevant from the government's perspective if you try and see. So we started looking at the technology. And as I said, in fact, we try and buy compute for the peak, which in what we've seen, a lot of e-governance projects, if you see income tax, if you talk about examination results and all, I mean, the peak is only for maybe a month, 2 months or something. And most of the time, the infrastructure is only 30%, 20% utilized. It's extremely important if we can have that resource sharing. When Department of Education needs it, they get the infrastructure. Income tax needs it, they take it. It's the same resource which could be done. And there's an optimization which is going to happen. And of course, the last but not the least important is the applications. Every state is independent in itself, and what we found 27 versions of the land records across the country. If you have this kind of a thing, imagine the investment in trying to maintain that kind of a software and the cost that goes, the time that goes into it. If you are able to have an application which is configurable, which is multi-tenant, and it's hosted centrally, the whole entire cycle of not only the deployment but the maintenance can be reduced. So I think cloud is extremely important and a relevant technology for Government of India to bring a paradigm shift in the way we procure IT and the applications across the country. Now with this, June 2013, we started with looking at our policy and the strategy. We came up with 2 documents, the policy document, the strategy and the implementation roadmap, and the very clear vision of the policy was, let's accelerate and optimize the cost using the benefits that the cloud can give you. And the policy clearly says, okay, we are going to leverage, first evaluate. We've not mandated today because you need to have that huge infrastructure in the country before you can send those instructions that no new applications will be taking any other infrastructure other than what's been set up across the country. So, but the policy very clearly says new applications have to be cloud ready. And the important thing is to come up with the necessary policies and standards which are required, because what we feel is the ecosystem has to be such that it provides fair competition in the country for government and private cloud service providers to provide services. However, you have the necessary policies, guidelines, frameworks, and the mechanisms in place to ensure that the necessary concerns in the cloud, whether you talk about security, you talk about privacy, those are taken care of. So this is based, and we have these 2 documents available on our website, and they are really detailed, and they give exact vision of what the Government of India is moving into. Now, important thing is architecture, because a lot of people think, okay, GI cloud or the Government of India's cloud, Meghraj, it must be a single homogeneous single cloud per se, but that's not true. This architecture has a space for multiple national clouds and state clouds. And these national clouds, when we talk about, they could be set up, either they are purely government owned and run, something like the NIC cloud, or they could be a public cloud run by NetMagic, City, or whoever is giving the cloud service providers, or the private cloud service providers setting up a dedicated cloud for Government of India, could be for a specific department, or it could be set up for multiple departments. So, I mean, we have space for all the categories. However, the binding principle is that they'll all have to follow the government-led necessary policies, norms, contractual agreements, SLAs, and other aspects which are going to be important to address the concerns of the departments and ensure the trust that is required. Now, important thing is for a department, if you have something like 10, 15 such cloud providers, where do I go? How do I ensure that, okay, one provider is today giving me these services, these are the rates. The other one is, there's no standardization. And so it's important that we come up with a single directory. We call it the Meghraj directory. Whoever is going to be accredited by Government of India to provide services will have to be registered in this directory, and there will be a single place where any department will go and have a look at the services, and the necessary agreements, sample, master agreements, SLAs, everything would be available. Now, looking at this journey ahead, if you want to build this kind of an ecosystem, you want to have the various cloud service providers immediately in the country. For you to do that, you need to have a complete accreditation and a certification mechanism. You need to have auditors in place. You need to have the necessary standards, guidelines, policies in place. At the same time, you need to have the necessary advisory and the capacity building services made available to the departments. Because we've seen, in fact, today, the departments are really aware about cloud, and we've interacted with so many departments, MHA, MEA, MORD, whole lot of them. They are all interested in having cloud services per se. However, the challenge is areas where how do you migrate an existing application to cloud? Or how do I integrate an existing application to the new components of the applications that are built in cloud? How do I build a new cloud ready? Because the concepts of multi-tenancy per se, they are still where we need to have I would say capacities in the country. The private should work in that area, because that's an area which is still, I would say, lacking in the country, because it's a very specialized area. And to build a multi-tenant application per se, in the current scenario where the applications are tightly coupled, huge awareness is required. So to do this, there is a complete governance mechanism that we've set up in the country as a part of the Government of India, which we call the Meghraj Apex Committee at the highest level, giving the necessary policy directions. We're going to have an expert group where the industry is going to be helping government in the policies and guidelines. We're going to set up a cloud management office to address the accreditation, standards, capacity building and all. And of course, below, if you see the other cloud providers in terms of the utilities, when you talk about a utility, it means the various business models that we have to evolve. I mean, you can have a model where you have a partnership kind of a thing, SPV kind of, a whole lot of business models which will have to be worked out and evolved for this. Let me share that while this whole has been going in this journey, we've done a couple of things. Our first national cloud by NIC under Meghraj was launched on 4th of February. And if you look at the figures here on the right side, you will see that almost 20 total number of users accessing cloud services, 24 departments have already started using, and there's a whole lot of requests with us. So there's a clear demand, there is a need. In fact, interestingly, there was one department recently, they wanted to evaluate if they had actually got into the rebuild. Okay, they decided now should we look at the cloud for the entire application and the infrastructure per se. So they had a committee, they evaluated the whole thing, we did a complete exercise for them, and believe me, after doing the entire evaluation, they have been convinced that yes, they can go ahead and move on the cloud, and they are now creating an RFP which is going to leverage one of the cloud service providers and have the application, the stateless application, the cloud platform, to be able to do that. So progress, of course, while I've been telling, we have the national cloud of NIC launched. We have many more national clouds. I'm very keen. We want to see many more cloud service providers coming up. So we want to have the accreditation mechanisms put in place. We're recently going to do a demand assessment across the country for the central and the state departments, especially to understand, I mean, what is the requirement? What are the existing applications they're willing to do? What is the kind of data? This will give us an idea about what are the kind of applications which will, their highly secure data is there, which have to run into a government-owned, government-run. What are the kind of applications of the data which can go into a public? This will give us a fairly good idea. It will also help us to understand and know the capacity building program. So we're going to be doing it in July now. And we're going to evolve the various business models in terms of tariffs, etc. And a couple of, even the state data centers are being cloud enabled across the country now. The last, let me just quickly tell you, see, we've been talking about infrastructure setting up, but applications are extremely important. The SaaS is a very, very important component. We've actually launched our App Store also. If you can go to the apps.gov, we want to see this not as a repository, but as a marketplace, a place where the user departments can bring the request, first go and have a look at it. Okay, this is the application I'm looking, is it available? No, this is what I want. Then the private players across the country who are serving the government departments can provide their applications. We're building a business model, whether it's a user pay, transaction based, the whole model will be built across and made available. So we will be looking, I think this is going to give a fair chance for the SMEs to come, and because today if you see, it is very difficult for the SMEs to really qualify the pre-bid, pre-qualification and other things. But if you give this kind of a platform, it can transform the way the government procures the applications across the country. And I think that's a vision we are looking at, and working on the various IPR policy issues and all. And we would be very keen to work with industry to get ideas as to what is the direction of strategy they think which is a win-win for the government and the private per se. And so with this, because I have a short time I was given and I've taken, thank you so much. And in my next session, which I have at 4:30, I would share a case study that we've done as to give you exactly the ROI on the cloud for a specific department. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for giving us the insights of governance through cloud computing. Now I request Dr. Ravi Gupta and all our dignitaries to please, the chief guest, to please release the Leader Special issue of eGov magazine. There's a special issue on cloud computing and governance, and also covering the IT leaders in India. Thanks to all the dignitaries. Now I request the next speaker, Shri Bhaskar Pramanik, Chairman, Microsoft India, to please address the audience.
So dignitaries on the dais, Renu ji, I think that was a very interesting presentation, a very great presentation by Renu Buddhiraja from the Department of Information Technology. We've been working very closely with the IT on the cloud strategy, and I must say that I have to congratulate them on their vision. The interesting thing is that if you think about all these jargon which we use about the cloud and social and mobility and analytics, the interesting thing is that the consumers have actually adopted all these technologies without even questioning what the challenges are. If you look at the government, I think I give a lot of credit to the government of India to take some of these bold decisions, to come out with a cloud-first policy, to ensure that all future applications are going to be developed on the cloud. Because if I look at the private sector, and I look at large enterprises, and I look at even small and medium enterprises, their adoption of cloud and any of these other technologies has been really painfully slow. So I think a lot of the people who are here on the dais as IT secretaries in different states, they've done a tremendous job in providing some great citizen services based on a cloud-based infrastructure. What I'd like to share with you today is to talk not so much about what are the benefits, but really to talk to you about what are the future challenges. Because I think we've just touched the tip of the iceberg. Great work which has been done, but I think the challenges ahead are that much more enormous. I had an opportunity to look at the BJP manifesto, which now more or less is becoming the Government of India manifesto, and there isn't a sector which is not going to be touched by IT. So all of a sudden, the standards or what needs to be done suddenly has gone up. And also, the pace at which this government wants to move is exceedingly high, and therefore the challenges are that much greater. So I wanted to share a few thoughts about what is possible in the era of the cloud. The first thing, which when I talk to CEOs or CXOs or secretaries of Government of India, the first thing they're saying is, how safe are my applications and my data in the public cloud? Will the public cloud increase my regulatory risk, and how can I justify moving to the cloud? And if you heard what Renu had to say, the Government of India has tried to cover or assure across each one of these areas to provide some sort of assurances, some standards, some policies. And that I think is a great thing. But I want you to understand that where we are is really using cloud technologies at what I call the enterprise scale. If you think about the Government of India today and you add up every single server across all state governments and across all government departments, there will be less than 10,000 servers. If you really want to get the benefits of the economy of the cloud, if you really want to get and understand what is possible with the cloud, then I just wanted to show you what the difference is between what I call enterprise IT and cloud scale. In terms of servers, if you're really talking about cloud scale, you're talking about 1 million servers. That's the number of servers which Microsoft has in its cloud services which it provides on a global basis. You're talking about data access, which is push, not pull. Currently today, there is a lot of restrictions and a lot of inability, although the government has some great plans to release some of this data through their open data policy. Budgets are basically on the basis of rates. It's not about fixed costs. Architectures are integrated, not siloed. Application integration is tight. It's not loosely coupled. And that's what exactly Renu was saying is the problem we have today. Most of the applications for e-governance were written in the era of client-server. So there's a very tight coupling. Trying to split up the application to make it multi-tenanted so that the same application can be used by multiple government departments across multiple states is not going to be an easy task. And trying to rewrite it, and we've had the privilege of working with the Government of India to take a few applications and try and see what is the cost or what is it required to be able to make that multi-tenanted. And the fact matter is that it is huge, and I don't think it makes sense to do that in a lot of those applications. It would perhaps make sense to rewrite those applications. We're talking about reach, which is on a global or a national basis. It's not just in a particular state. So therefore, networking, the kind of fiber optic networks which are required are huge and massive. Hardware, you use typically commodity hardware. That's how you keep the cost low. Deployment is completely automated. One of the key requirements to say that something is on a cloud is that it is provisioned by the user, it is elastic, and that it can be metered so that you can charge on a usage basis. And most of the applications we are seeing currently really don't have those characteristics. Operability, you look at mean time to repair. It's not a question of how much is the mean time between failure. Security is intrinsic. It's built into every element of the application, the network, the data. Deployment is in minutes. It's not in terms of weeks and months. And administration is based on application programming interfaces, which is something which we will have to work on here in India to make sure that all the different kinds of cloud services release their APIs so that developers can create applications based on those APIs. Now, what constitutes an enterprise-grade cloud service? Number one is that you need globally redundant data centers. And yes, while we're looking at it from a national footprint, you also sometimes make sure that you have data centers in other parts of the world so that in case of a catastrophe, you can actually move it across. You need huge, massive networks. You need dark fiber between the hubs with multiple international edge points to minimize latency. Speed is going to be important, especially if you think about education and where you want to play back video. Even communications of the kind where you want to interact on a video right down to the district level with a citizen will require huge dark fiber capacity. You're continually advancing in the areas of compliance. Most of the data centers which you see here in India, the public data centers, the hosting companies, they are all ISO 27001 approved. But what we need is the EU model clauses for data privacy. We need HIPAA for health. We need FISMA for financial security. There is no data center in India today, government or otherwise, which fulfills these criteria. So I think we need to be very clear that what we are offering is really, like I said, the tip of the iceberg. We need to move fast to create those data centers which have these kinds of certification. We need multiple levels of security, both at the data center, in the networks, in the software, and in the application. And again, that's something which will require us to relook at every single application and see how this can be built in. And frankly, if you are going to have a couple of 100,000 servers in a data center, you need to be very careful about how you design it and build it, because the current generation of data centers, which have upwards of 500,000 servers in a particular data centers, have efficiencies which are 4 to 2 times better than what you are seeing currently here in India. And being an energy deficient country, that's the kind of investments which we will have to make. I wanted to also give you an idea of some of the challenges and what you need to do to create applications and services for the cloud. If you look at what we call a private data center is something which you own, and typically when you create even a government data center to me is a private because it's owned, it's something which you own. You control everything there is inside that data center. And yes, you have discrete applications which run on these servers. You can also provide various platform services to your employees or to your customers. You also have infrastructure which you can share. And by and large, most of the data centers in India today, whether it is in enterprise or whether it is in the government, really is in this area. It is all about virtualized hardware, software, with certain elements of security, but applications which are more client-server based, and where it is really not user provision. It is still somebody in the data center providing those applications and services. And what we've got to do is to really make it truly cloud-enabled, which means that software applications and software become a service, platform becomes a service, and even infrastructure becomes a service. Now the way to do this is to ensure that while you're building your private data center, you're building the applications or the infrastructure or the platform as a service, you need to ensure that you use a set of common technologies around identity, around virtualization, around management, and even software development. The way client-server applications were developed in the past seem primitive by cloud standards today. The tools which are required to create multi-tenanted, user-provisioned, highly secure application which can scale across hundreds of thousands of servers is something which we still don't use. And one of the messages I'd like to give to the government is that they should start adopting some of these modern tools which will enable them to design this next generation of application. What is important that these tools will enable them to actually create the documentation, be able to ensure that they meet certain process standards and quality standards, and therefore if it needs to be modified at a later stage, it is much more amenable to change than the bespoke application development which is currently happening here in India. So usage of tools to automate and to perhaps enhance the productivity of a software professional to developing these kinds of applications is going to be important. And what is also important to ensure that you have a set of common directory services and service management so that you can actually manage these huge data centers. What are the options which the government has? And I think Renu's actually identified that very clearly. They're looking at private and public participation. My definitions here of a private cloud is a government cloud. It's owned and operated by the government. It provides them greater control. It provides more customization. It enables sensitive and confidential data to be protected. And there are many applications where national security is dependent and they need to run and reside in these government data centers. But there's also the option of what I call private, which is government, and public, which is somebody else who's providing a public cloud infrastructure, but which is managed by the government, but it's hosted by a cloud service provider. That's what another model which Renu had also talked about. This can be highly secure and it can be extremely cost effective because the capital infrastructure and the investment are all done by organizations outside of the government. And then finally, there are a host of citizen services which can actually be put on a true public cloud, where most of the real private data remains either in the private public cloud or the private cloud, the government cloud, but which can actually then scale on a massive basis at a cost which perhaps even most government data centers would not be able to provide. Here, infrastructure and applications are on a public cloud. It's an optimal mix of cost and control. It's agile and secure. It's scalable, it's cost effective, and it's citizen services oriented. Our recommendations to the government is that both from a governance perspective, whether it's G2G applications or G2C, adopt a cloud first policy, which I think the Department of IT has already done. It's about building cloud ready applications. We need to facilitate that, both private sector and government, working with the developers, with the startups, with the whole ecosystem which India should be really proud of, which exists and which we should move from commercial applications to more government-oriented applications. We need to establish what are the key cloud standards. We should accelerate the growth by providing incentives for MSMEs. For MSMEs, the cloud is perhaps the best way of providing applications as a services. It is cost effective, it is simple to use, and there are a number of different ISVs who have created applications in India which is focused really on SME, and we need to encourage more such. Whether you want legal and compliance, whether you want productivity solution, whether you want accounting, inventory control, customer relationship management, smaller ISVs have created those applications and they are very, very appropriate for small and medium enterprise. And lastly, I think we need to also ensure that to protect the interest of consumers as well as small, medium enterprise, big enterprises will always take care of themselves. The service level agreements which these cloud service providers should be providing should really be looked at, and again, it should be done in partnership with the private sector. We also need to foster innovation because there's a huge potential, this huge software ecosystem which India has needs to start developing application, not just something which you can use on your smartphone, but which can be used for the good of the country, whether it's for citizen services or it's for helping the small and medium enterprises to really flourish in India. With this, I'll stop and I'll pass it back to the organizers.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I request Shri Balaji Rao, Director, VMWARE Software India Limited, to please address the audience.
Members of the panel, ladies and gentlemen. When I saw the topic first on new technologies like cloud and virtualization, I guess by now the myth is dispelled that it's no more new. The way Madam Renu Buddhiraja began with the cloud initiatives in the government side and the clarity of thought that exists. And I would fully agree with what Mr. Bhaskar Pramanik just said, that the government is much ahead of the private sector in terms of thought and in terms of leadership in this area, to adopting something which really suits what is the need of the hour today. So what I thought I would do is, I'm glad it is flowing in this direction where Madam set the stage and Mr. Pramanik then came in and gave the complete vision of what is a private, public, and what are the recommendations for the government. I thought I would take a different route where I will show you what is already done, what one of the panel members incidentally here has already achieved, Shri Rajesh Agarwal ji, in the form of implementing a cloud in Maharashtra. And I will take you through some of the details of what has already been done and how it's kind of come out, which will help you appreciate what is the value that cloud can bring in into the functioning. A brief introduction to VMWARE. We are not as ubiquitous as some of the larger software companies, so just one slide on our company. So we have 15,000 employees globally, 5 lakh plus customers. We own lion's share in the virtualization market, which gives us a very good positioning in the cloud side as well. We are about $5.2 billion in revenue, and we have a very, very large R&D presence right here in India, in Bangalore. With that, I'll quickly move to the presentation. The bedrock of cloud, as far as many of these technologies that we are talking about, is virtualization. This is the bedrock which helps you expand and collapse your infrastructure as need be. For very long, we have recommended that virtualization is the first step to cloud computing, and you can see here why. We have almost avoided costs, including projected figures for the next few years, close to almost $4 billion in India alone. And when I'm talking about costs, I'm talking about the amount of servers that you need to deliver your applications, the amount of power and cooling that you save with technologies like virtualization, the amount of floor space that is saved in the data center, and also admin costs. So if you look at the Indian economy and the amount of money that, this is an IDC study, that is saved by technologies like just virtualization, cloud is a step beyond that. We are talking about almost $4 billion in savings. Going to the Mahagov Cloud, this was an initiative by DIT Maharashtra to provide infrastructure as a service, software as a service, platform as a service to facilitate various state departments in their e-governance initiatives. So some of the products of VMware have been used in it, but I will go through further details. So for some of you who are interested in the various departments that are using, I put it here so that you can relate to some of the departments that are already using the cloud in Maharashtra. You can see that there are departments that vary from education to public health, to MADA, which is a real estate department in Mumbai, to textiles, to tribal. You can see the wide range of departments where the cloud is offering its services. So actually we began this journey in 2011. I put this slide up so that you can see that it doesn't take very long to actually set up a cloud. It happens pretty quickly. So we began discussions with Shri Rajesh Agarwal ji in December of 2011, and by June 2012 it was a fully commissioned cloud that is running in the state government of Maharashtra. I put this up so that you get an idea of, we have been talking about how to itemize various products in the cloud, how do you kind of charge, how do you cross-charge. This has already been achieved. This is a successful model that is already running. There is a rate charge which is on a public side, which kind of brings in a huge amount of transparency into costs and the way you deliver IT in the cloud. So this kind of gives you an idea that this is the monthly rates that are applicable for infrastructure as a service in the government of Maharashtra, which various departments can subscribe to. So one is the process of going through tenders and acquiring a lot of services. The second is a very simple and transparent mechanism. You have a rate card, it's almost like a menu list in a restaurant. You choose what you want to, and you have it available as a service to you. And many of these are infrastructure components, can be extended to software as a service or platform as a service as well. If some of you want to know some of the details of what lies in there, there are almost 512 cores that are running there, all x86 of course. There are about 473 virtual machines as part of the cloud, and there are some other details of storage, etc. that are part of the cloud. And more importantly, what cloud has brought in here is the ability to manage everything from a single straightforward console. So In short, we are delivering IT as a service and the ability to simplify IT using the cloud infrastructure here. If you look at the total cost of ownership that has been achieved in this project already, you can see on the left hand side we have the physical and then on the right hand side the virtual. There is a huge saving in terms of cost. So first of all, virtualization brings in a lion's share of those savings as you virtualize servers from physical to virtual, followed by some of the advantages of taking automation of the cloud in terms of delivering self-service, etc., would bring the cost down further for some of the components which are there. So in short, there is an advantage in terms of manageability that has been spoken about. There is an advantage in terms of scale that has already been spoken about. Here I'm quantifying the cost advantage as well for the cloud. So we have this quote from Rajesh Agarwal ji. This is not by design. Only a couple of hours before I knew he is on the panel here. So, but coincidentally, it's in the press as well that you can see that there is a huge amount of saving that has been achieved by using the cloud in Maharashtra. Also, interestingly, what has been achieved is having a chargeback model. So one is to deliver services, but the second is to measure and quantify these services and charge various departments based on the usage. I would say again here, the government, especially the Maharashtra government here, is much ahead because this has been achieved quite some time back using a chargeback model. So there are bills being produced to various departments based on their usage. So they could use, it's almost metered like you're metering electricity in our houses, and the bills are being produced based on the usage there. This is just a sample of one of the bills that has been produced for the animal husbandry department. You can see that it is almost a chargeback model that is completely operational in production today. And also, when you look at the cloud, look at everything as a service. We are trying to simplify the whole delivery of IT here. We are trying to simplify it to achieve scale. We are trying to simplify it to achieve flexibility and to align with the needs of the government. So here you can see that as we are moving to newer services like talk about analytics that is being delivered, again is being delivered through the cloud. So you can deliver today a desktop as a service, you can deliver even a load balancer as a service. So instead of going behind various infrastructure components and creating complexity in your data centers, you can simplify all these things to achieve a service-oriented model using the cloud. These are some of the awards that the implementation has already won. I'm sure Rajesh Agarwal ji will talk more about it when he speaks, but these are already in the press, and quite a bit of awards have already been won by this implementation. For some of you who are keen to know what were the building blocks, the bedrock of it, of course, was the virtualization software, followed by the metering software that helps us meter the various departments. We automated the entire provisioning. Virtualization doesn't automate a lot of pieces, but gives you the flexibility in your infrastructure, but we went beyond that to automate the provisioning as well, so that you have a self-service menu by which you can deliver all the services, and we help monitor everything from a single pane of glass for the government of Maharashtra. So I just wanted to keep it brief, just to give you a flavor of what's a real-life cloud implementation like with real benefits. Thank you for a patient hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Rao, for giving us the insights of Mahagav and the technology implemented in it. With this, now I invite Shri Bipul Pathak, Commissioner Secretary, Department of Information Technology, Government of Jammu and Kashmir, to please address the audience.
To start with, I would like to thank Elets for extending me an invitation here to speak to you. I won't take much time. All I bring is a perspective from a state government side as to how to use these kind of new technologies and certain challenges which we face while implementing all these e-governance initiatives, especially the latest technologies like cloud and its use in the government. The technical aspects of all these new technologies, especially the cloud, has been explained to you by Renu, Buddhiraja here. I would focus on certain fundamental things which we, while implementing such technologies, face. The biggest challenge a state government faces is the process re-engineering which we have to do to implement such kind of initiatives. It's very hard for many of the departments to understand that you can use these services in future as pay-as-you-go kind of thing. For that to happen, they need to change their budgeting systems, and that involves consultation with many other departments. So it's very difficult for initially for departments like IT department to try and convince the user departments to change their way of working as well as way of thinking, way of budgeting, so that they are able to adopt these kind of new technologies and pay as you go, whether it is platform or service or infrastructure. This is one of the major challenges which we are facing, at least in our state, and I am sure a couple of other states which are slightly behind in terms of e-governance in the spectrum of all the state governments. They also face similar kind of challenges. But Maharashtra may be on the one side of the spectrum. Then there are certain states which have reached somewhere in the middle, and some of the states are lagging behind. The states which are lagging behind also find a lot of apprehension in terms of data privacy, data protection with these kind of initiative. It's a big challenge for the civil servants at the middle and the lower level to understand, because they are not exposed to the IT initiatives and capacities to understand these kind of new systems. So for that, we need to make a major move towards enabling them in terms of understanding of new technologies, so that they are able to adopt and then change also. There's another big apprehension which goes in the minds of top level civil servants also while adopting these technologies, is data privacy and how do we handle breaches as per our laws. There are laws, but then how do we implement those laws? Cyber crimes also, and then most of the investigations land up in police. My experience has been that capacity of the most of the police departments, barring few in the country, is very, very limited. They struggle to understand small things in technology and then make it into an evidence to ultimately prosecute such kind of breaches. That is a major issue which also needs to be tackled, and the police departments have to gear up to understand data privacy in the world context and bring it par with the international standards also. Let me go back to another major issue which many of the states face. Cloud services can be developed, technologies available, the security of the cloud and other things is also more or less standardized in our country now. And we have our government cloud of the NIC already in place. And the state governments also are doing it, and over a period of time we will also implement it. But the major issue is that for G2C services to go onto cloud, connectivity is a major issue. I had an impression earlier that some of the advanced states like Andhra Pradesh, which are very high on the index of IT enablement and e-governance, the connectivity would be good. But my experience was different, and I found that even 50-60 kilometers out of Hyderabad, the connectivity, telecom connectivity is very dodgy actually at times. And then I thought that, okay, states like J&K, maybe Northeast, hill states, some of them suffer a lot because of connectivity. And now we are thinking, the Government of India is funding the penetration of a backbone up to panchayat level. Even that is also not going to probably handle all the challenges of connectivity, because the current level of penetration is also very dodgy in many areas. Even some of the district level headquarters suffer from that. So G2C services may not be able to use the full potential of cloud in the near future. In the distant future, probably it will happen. And I also made a suggestion to the ministry at one point of time that to make the panchayat level penetration of national optical fiber network much more quicker, it should be also able to leverage the capacities of private sector telecom companies, if not only the public sector companies. And I don't know how far it can be accommodated within the government context. But there is a case because most of the companies, private or public sector, like BSNL or MTNL, they are licensed by the same ministry. And if they are licensed and regulated, then I think they can also participate in taking this penetration of optical fiber network to panchayats. Let's hope in the future we are able to shift to that. That is all I wanted to say, 3-4 big challenges from the government, state government perspective. I'll not take much time. I would like to thank you for hearing me out on state government's perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for highlighting various initiatives in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and especially the challenges the state is facing. Thank you very much. And now I request Shri Rajesh Agarwal, Principal Secretary, Department of Information Technology, Government of Maharashtra, to please address the audience.
Good afternoon. सब सो गए. Good morning, everybody. कुछ दिन पहले मैंने विस्पर्स इन द कॉरिडोर्स में पढ़ा कि दिल्ली की भाषा बदल रही है. ज़्यादा लोग आजकल हिंदी बोलने लग गए. ई-गवर्नेंस में भी जार्गन बहुत ज़्यादा है. कंसल्टेंट ड्रिवन जार्गन, वेंडर ड्रिवन जार्गन. इसलिए हिंदी में कई बार बात करो तो सीधी बात होती है, सिंपल बात होती है. थोड़ा सा मैं आज हिंदी में बात करूँगा. बहुत बार मैं देखता हूँ, मुझे 3 साल हो गए IT सेक्रेटरी महाराष्ट्र बने. कंसल्टेंट्स और वेंडर्स और कई बड़े एंथुजियास्टिक ऑफिसर्स भी साथ में 200-300 पेज का बड़ा सुंदर सा RFP बना के लाते हैं, स्पायरल बाउंड, अच्छी अंग्रेजी में. टेक्निकली डिज़ाइन बड़ा अच्छा होता है. तो मैं पूछता हूँ यार सिटीजन को क्या फ़ायदा होगा. तो मुझे ऐसे देखते हैं कि पागल है, इतना बढ़िया डिज़ाइन है, इतना बढ़िया प्रोजेक्ट है, ये क्या सवाल पूछ रहा है. सिटीजन को क्या फ़ायदा होगा, ये तो हमने सोचा ही नहीं कभी. So e-governance without PPR, which is being done, it's not a very good thing. इससे सिर्फ कुछ कंसल्टेंट्स, कुछ वेंडर्स का फायदा हो रहा है. मुझे पता है बहुत मार पड़ने वाली है, मेरी ऑडियंस आज ज़्यादा बड़ी है. अभी कुछ लोगों ने मेरा आर्टिकल पढ़ा भी होगा कि जो प्रोजेक्ट 1 करोड़ में हो सकता है, 1 साल में हो सकता है, 50 करोड़ का 5 साल का प्रोजेक्ट बन रहा है. मैं आपको 10 साल पुरानी बात बताता हूँ. 2004 के लोकसभा इलेक्शन हुए, मैं डायरेक्टर IT इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया था. जब इलेक्शन अनाउंस हुए उसके बाद मेरे दिमाग में आया कि दिल्ली जैसी जगह में अपना पोलिंग बूथ ढूंढना बहुत मुश्किल है. आई शुड बी एबल टू टाइप ऑन द इलेक्शन कमीशन वेबसाइट राजेश अग्रवाल D1/200 भारती नगर, न्यू दिल्ली, इन वट एवर स्पेलिंग आई वॉन्ट. राजेश अग्रवाल के स्पेलिंग कुछ भी, भारती नगर के स्पेलिंग कुछ भी. देन द सॉफ्टवेयर शुड टेल मी कि बॉस आपका इस वोटिंग बूथ में नाम है और ये मैप है. मैंने NIC से पूछा ये हो सकता है क्या. कहते हाँ हो जाएगा, 3 साल लगेंगे, 3 करोड़ रुपया लगेगा. CDAC से पूछा, वही उत्तर, 2-3 साल लगेंगे, 2-3 करोड़ रुपया लगेगा. उस टाइम एक बहुत छोटी सी कंपनी थी मैप माई इंडिया. हौज खास के घर में वो 3-4-5 बच्चे बैठते थे. सर टॉक टू राकेश वर्मा, हो सकता है. सेट सर मैंने अभी दिल्ली एजुकेशन डिपार्टमेंट के लिए एक प्रोजेक्ट किया है लैटलॉन्ग का. आपके 8000 पोलिंग बूथ हैं दिल्ली में, 2200 लोकेशन है, सब मेरे पास है. आप अपना दिल्ली का डेटाबेस उठा के ले आओ, देखते हैं क्या होता है. सो आई वेंट टू हौज खास. 2 days later boss, the website was operational. 2 days later. Maps were coming from a US server and he charged me 1 lakh rupees per annum. And this is what cloud does. This is classically what cloud does. अभी अपने नए प्रधानमंत्री ने भी एक चाइना के शायद बारे में कहा था कि we need skills, we need speed and we need scale. IT में ये चीज़ें करनी है तो cloud is very helpful. अभी बालाजी ने VMWARE ने आपको बताया कि आई थिंक जून 12 में हमारा क्लाउड ऑपरेशनल हो गया था. जुलाई की बात है, जुलाई 2012 की। एम्प्लॉयमेंट एक्सचेंज कमिश्नर महाराष्ट्र के जो हैं वो और उनकी टीम मेरे पास आई, बड़ा सुंदर एक प्रोजेक्ट लेके आए कि सभी एम्प्लॉयमेंट एक्सचेंज को कंप्यूटराइज कर देंगे। वी विल कन्वर्ट ऑल ओवर एग्जिस्टिंग CSCs इनटू एम्प्लॉयमेंट एक्सचेंजेस। ITI का एडमिशन प्रोसेस है उसको ट्रांसपेरेंट कर देंगे। एंड इट वाज ए 20 करोड़ रुपीस प्रोजेक्ट। तो मैंने उनको बताया कि अभी अभी हमने अपना क्लाउड ऑपरेशनल किया है, चलो बैठ के देखते हैं कि क्या क्या आइटम कट हो सकती है। 6-7 करोड़ के सर्वर थे। मैंने कहा ये अपने रेट चार्ट में है, क्योंकि आप पहले कस्टमर हो, आपके लिए फ्री है, वो ज़रूरत नहीं है। 2 करोड़ का SMS गेटवे है, अपना रेट चार्ट है महा ऑनलाइन का 10,000 रुपये का। 2 करोड़ वर्सेस 10,000, मैंने कहा वो भी फ्री। API है, 5 मिनट में इंटीग्रेट हो जाती है। पेमेंट गेटवे 2-3 करोड़ का, महा ऑनलाइन है पेमेंट गेटवे विद मल्टीपल ऑप्शंस, ICICI, HDFC, NSDL, पावर्ड पे बिल डेस्क एंड ऑल। सो वो भी फ्री में मिल जाएगा। सो ऐसे कर करके हमने बहुत सारे कंपोनेंट काट दिए। कीमत रह गई 4 करोड़ फॉर एप्लीकेशन सॉफ्टवेयर। फिर मैंने कहा यार ये तो बड़ा मज़ा आ गया, 5 करोड़ से कम तो हम ही बैठ के यहीं पे अप्रूव कर सकते हैं, हाई पावर्ड कमेटी के पास जाने की भी जरूरत नहीं। चलो अभी मिनट्स लिखते हैं, कल परसों में टेंडर निकालो। तो टेंडर निकल गया, CMC लोएस्ट आ गई, 4 महीने बाद सॉफ्टवेयर रोल आउट हो गया। सो इन February 2013 फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम ITI admissions in Maharashtra were basically computerized. Instead of 3 lakh people, 3 lakh kids, 9 lakh kids applied online, sitting at home or through CSCs or cyber cafes wherever. Instead of 5-ton choices, they had 200-300 choices across Maharashtra. The results were declared the next day after basically the paper and all. So it changes the ball game. Cost comes down, rollout is much faster, and obviously the opportunity cost earned is great. अभी 3-4 महीने पहले महाराष्ट्र ने 17 साल बाद बॉम्बे और बाकी पूरे महाराष्ट्र में ऑटो और टैक्सी के परमिट खोले। 17 साल तक नए ऑटो और टैक्सी के परमिट नहीं दिए गए थे, तो अनमेट डिमांड बहुत थी। तो आई टोल्ड ट्रांसपोर्ट डिपार्टमेंट की हमने महाडा लॉटरी तो करते हैं, तो वी जस्ट run the same software from the cloud, and instead of houses we will give people taxi and auto permits. From this discussion with transport commissioner, actually opening the applications on the net, the time taken was 7 days. 7 days. 7 days later, people were filling applications on the net. 30 days later, the online lottery was done. जब लॉटरी हुई तो मैंने CM साहब के कान में जाके मैंने कहा सर ये 900 करोड़ रुपए की लॉटरी थी। इस वक्त मैंने कहा सर मार्केट में 3 लाख रुपए का रेट है इस कागज के टुकड़े का, जो हमने ओपन ट्रांसपेरेंट लॉटरी से दिया है। दैट्स व्हाट हैपेंस ऑन द फील्ड। नया हम जो क्लाउड से कर रहे हैं, दैट इज ऑथेंटिकेशन ऑन द क्लाउड। आजकल बहुत जगह आपको सिटीजन को गवर्नमेंट ऑफिस में क्यों जाना पड़ता है कि कोई क्लर्क आपको आइडेंटिफाई करेगा, यू आर राजेश अग्रवाल। व्हाई शुड गवर्नमेंट डू इट व्हेन द सर्वर कैन डू इट? आप कहीं भी दुनिया में कहीं भी बैठ के OTP करो या बायोमेट्रिक डिवाइस पे उंगली रखो, बेंगलोर का या नोएडा का UID का सर्वर आपको बताएगा, इट विल कंफर्म दैट यू आर यू। तो हमारे IGR स्टैम्प्स के ऑफिस में we earn about 15,000 crore per annum from our stamp duty offices. 30% footfalls there are for some activity which yields only 1% revenue. It is a rental agreement. Every 11 months, especially Mumbai, Pune, Thane, etc., these footfalls are huge. So 30% footfalls yielding 1% revenue. We said we don't want people to come to our offices. Now people in Maharashtra, Bombay, they have started using it. It's a widely popular service. The owner and the tenant can sit at home, they can go to property broker, they can go to a pawn shop, they log into IGR's website, authenticate themselves using biometric machine which costs 2,000 rupees, and we have trained property brokers for it, we have trained cyber cafes for it, given them these machines. They make online payment and they print the agreement. So they don't come to offices. So eKYC, online authentication on the cloud, this is huge. So as the previous presentation showed you, probably we are the only ones amongst the government running a meaningful cloud in the country. Call it arrogance, but we are very proud of it. We are very happy to train anybody, any other state governments which come, and people have been flocking to us. There are many hidden operational issues. If you don't master that, you can actually end up blowing more money on the cloud than getting the benefits. Licensing issues, CPU and RAM optimization, VM density, thin provisioning, DR staging. We have experimented with cloud burst into BSNL public cloud. So sometimes that is cheaper than running our own cloud and expanding our own servers. अभी मैं यहाँ आने से पहले I was in DIT, so I was talking to some people. So sometimes I talk a bit bluntly, तो मैंने बताया कि जो आप ये क्रांति बोल रहे हो मार्केट में उसको ये भ्रांति भी बोलते हैं कई बार. तो so fresh thinking is needed, fresh report is needed. So one new term which actually government should be using is SMAC, Social Mobility Analytics and Cloud. And that's the main purpose of the cloud. Now, almost everybody of you must be carrying a mobile phone. Now take away the cloud from the mobile phone, meaning you discard the SIM card. What good is your mobile? It's only a watch, or maybe you will play Angry Birds or Candy Crush on it. That's the only use of mobile if you take away the cloud. So many citizen services, health, education, etc., we need to design them from the cloud, design them for the mobile. Just trying to run existing desktop websites on mobiles is no good. So social is good, social is very big. And our PM himself is basically putting selfies on the net and tweeting, so social is really big. Open data analytics is very big. A few days ago, we had a meeting with tribal minister and a few ISPs and telcos. मिनिस्टर साहब ने एक बहुत बढ़िया बात बताई. कहते पहले मैं गांव में जाता था तो लोग मांगते थे बिजली चाहिए, पानी चाहिए, सड़क चाहिए. आजकल बच्चे कहते हैं नेटवर्क चाहिए. गांवों में नेटवर्क भी खेलने के लिए नहीं चाहिए. कहते हैं नेटवर्क इसलिए चाहिए कि अभी हमें 50 रुपये दिहाड़ी मिल रही है. मोबाइल चलेगा तो हमें पता चल जाएगा दूसरे गांव में 100 रुपया दिहाड़ी है. इसके लिए नेटवर्क चाहिए. So we need to basically focus on those issues. I will take 2-3 more parts, 2-3 more minutes. Now data entry on the cloud, we are focusing on it. Allowing citizens, encouraging citizens to do data entry on the government servers. And I have found this is the biggest factor which can eliminate lines everywhere. Whether it's driving license, passport, property registration, if we allow people to do data entry on the cloud, data entry on our servers, all lines eliminate. On Marine Drive, there is a government printing press, Journey Road. Every day morning, 800 people line up there for 3 to 4 hours to get their name changed. Mainly it is young girls, शादी के बाद नाम चेंज कराना है. ज्योतिषी ने बोल दिया जी एक के एक्स्ट्रा डाल लो, नाम में एक अग्रवाल में एक एक्स्ट्रा डाल लो तो किस्मत चमक जाएगी. So lot of people line up. So we said कि यार ये 4 महीने का टाइम लगता है उसमें. 4 घंटे खड़े हो तो फिर 4 महीने गजट नोटिफिकेशन में लगते हैं. So 3 months back I visited there along with Secretary Industries. We said let's try to fine tune this service. Last month we got it down to 4 days. Basically by doing data entry, allowing citizens to do data entry. If let us say I am standing in a line, any line in any government office, at number 30, and the man on the window is taking 2 minutes to do the data entry of my phone. So I am standing unnecessarily for 1 hour. If I have already done the data entry as a citizen, I will do a much better job and I won't be able to stand. Basically, line is eliminated. So we got it down to 4 days. 1st June we put banners all across. This window is getting, this counter is getting closed. 10 जून से ये खिड़की बंद. तो आज 10 जून है बाई चांस. तो आज से महाराष्ट्र की नेम चेंज नोटिफिकेशन की खिड़की बंद हो गई है। लोग घर बैठते हैं, पेपर अपलोड करते हैं, 4 घंटे बाद वेबसाइट पे नाम बदल जाता है। ऑब्वियसली देयर आर थिंग्स इन प्लेस, मैकेनिज्म इन प्लेस कि मैं आपका नाम ना बदल दूँ, बट दैट इज द पावर ऑफ बेसिकली allowing citizens to basically latch on to the government law. So that's important. So our organizations like NIC, so Renu has gone, but anyway, NIC, CDAC, other government organizations, DAT, they need to really reboot into these things. Cloud is a game changer. We have to move away from just purchasing boxes and bandwidth. Unfortunately, आज तक ज़्यादा प्रोजेक्ट्स एंड रिजल्ट क्या है कि मेरे पास बहुत बॉक्स आ गया और बैंडविड्थ आ गया, दैट्स द एंड रिजल्ट, दैट कैन नॉट बी द एंड रिजल्ट। सो फ्रेश रीबूट इज नीडेड। आज मैं प्लेन में किताब पढ़ रहा था, कोड हेलोस, उसमें था कि एक फ्रेज था कि इट इज जस्ट लाइक पुटिंग लिपस्टिक ऑन ए पिग। सो ई गवर्नेंस शुड नॉट बी लाइक पुटिंग लिपस्टिक ऑन ए पिग कॉल्ड गवर्नेंस. It has to really change people's lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And as they say, when there is any complex presentation on something, and we often say, "Yaar, Hindi mein samjhao." So thank you very much, sir, for this. And it's not only language; it's a simplification of any concept, and that is what the purpose of CloudGov Summit is: to simplify to give a simplified presentation of this technology to all the stakeholders. So thank you very much, sir, again. Now I invite the next speaker, Shri S.N. Tripathi ji, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Micro and Small and Medium Enterprises, Government of India. Sir, please address the
guest on the dais, dear friends, when temperature outside is 47 degree plus, talking about cloud is really very smooth and cool. After listening to all the speakers, in any case I represent micro, small and medium industries, very little to speak for me. In fact, I came here with the purpose of listening. You are very poor in listening and the service. So I thought today I will get a chance to listen on cloud. I really encourage the Maharashtra experience and many more that are going to be taught today. I'm one of those who believe that cloud or no cloud, people require service. Hardware or software, they are meaningless for public and common man. They require service to be delivered at place of their choice in the manner they want to consume. There are models also. If you want to listen to a song on iTunes, just download, start listening. If you like, pay. If you don't like, listen half. In government, still there is no such service. Whatever we taught, even changing the name, we require 3 days to stand in line. Why not change the rules of the game itself? Where name changes for somebody's my privilege. If I spell it Surendra Nath today, I can say Surendra and Tripathi. Tomorrow, I can be known by anyone. I mean, name is a name and continues to be a name. People call it rose is a rose, any color. Time has come for government also to go for GPR, where we think differently. There are states which have done it. I don't know how many of you experience of Greater Noida. If you buy a plot, your plot is changed in your name within half an hour. No questions asked. Put 3 documents, upload it, get your data converted in your name. Maharashtra might be a little ahead. Others are also trying to do that. My purpose of coming here was to talk about MSME and their use of cloud there. I thought I will share you a CII study recently done. We have done a study of entrepreneurs, about 8,000 in 22 cities. They found that only in 4 cities, less than 2% MSMEs are aware of what is cloud. And out of that, only 2% are using cloud. I'm not very surprised because in India, this MSME scenario is really too big. We represent about 36 million unit enterprises. We employ about 80 million Indians. We share about 8% of country GDP and maybe about 45% of export. Limited point of saying now that I imagine a very big and great ministry. My saying is that this is a huge area where IT enabled manufacturing, IT enabled supply chain management, IT enabled customer relationship management can be a game changer. But what we are thinking in the ministry that can there be an IT application based on iCloud where $1 a month a enterprise can prepare its account. Really a 1 rupee or $1 shop type situation. And we have worked out on economics. In fact, some people are now helping us. That we put a virtual cluster platform, allow the service provider to come and join. Do not negotiate whether these are cloud or on the laptop or desktop or on laptop or wherever it is. We do not go into the location of the information. We only go by the user. If you want to listen to Mundi Badnaam Hui, pay $1 and use it. Listen to it. One time free, second time we will charge you. And you will be surprised that there are proposals which has come to us that a mini ERP solution for one MSME unit with 3 users is available for $10 a month. They are negotiating, can we make it $1 also? Because if 100,000 units start using it, if 36 million units start using it, even if they, the total transaction in any case, volume is not an issue here, scalability is not an issue here. I was told that even skill, speed and scalability, we were the best prepared all the time. The government is talking recently. My purpose of coming here is that we are putting a virtual cluster platform for interacting with these MSMEs who are widespread. We had done a proof of concept in our PMEGP application form. We put that only online application will be accepted for credit come enterprise setting initiative of the ministry. You will be surprised that people from 600 districts of India applied. We got about 600,000 plus applications or about 85,000 cases to be considered with that. We transferred all these applications to district level task force chaired by the collectors. They recommended it, went to the bank, went to the branch, went to the person concerned, all through an e-application, and which is also, we are saying that it is a free of cost as of now. Today we are thinking of that, why not this bank application, common loan application be made available on our website where 36 million enterprises can access and apply for a loan online, so that this bank will not say that nobody has applied. You go to any credit seminar of MSME, you will find that, sir, loan nahi milta. You go to a banker seminar, sir, अच्छे case nahi milte. If you go to finance ministry, there is no complaint against any one of them. Can't we harmonize this through some application? And ministry is working on these lines. I came here to listen to, as I told you earlier, there are legacy systems, there are cloud systems, there are new systems, some more concepts will come in due course. Ravi and his team will certainly come with new concepts. As Maharashtra speaker was saying, that has become consultants' paradise and citizens' nightmare. E-cloud can reduce that. In fact, somebody put it jokingly, and I said I will have permission of chair to say that. ये जो लोग मेरी कब्र पर रो रहे हैं, ये जो लोग मेरी कब्र पर रो रहे हैं, उठ जाऊं तो जीने न दें. Cloud computing has come to that level where we can deliver good service with the patient and doctor both surviving. Otherwise, operation successful and patient continues to be there. iCloud, our cloud environment, gives an opportunity to really speed, scale and skill every enterprise who can not only obtain some services, even deliver services to the citizens at a zero cost or no cost. WhatsApp doesn't charge anything in year one, and they have been sold for 19 billion. Sir, I was app store of NIC I went, sir. I was told by Secretary Deity that if you want to use app e-office on app.gov.in, you can use e-office within a day. This is 6th month running. I am yet to get email into that system. This is not app to run it. This will assist even the new users also. WhatsApp doesn't charge anything, it is sold for 19 billion. I don't know if we want to put NIC on sale, how much billion we will get. I'm not saying here I have come to sell NIC because I don't own it and I don't have any intention to say it. Do we have that type of application which can fetch market value? Are we relevant to the citizen? Are we relevant to the workshop and conferences? The time has come to reboot at the level of government also. At least when they say that, उठ जाऊं तो जीने न दें, उठ जाऊं तो at least सही सलामत जीने तो दें. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving the perspective of SMEs, which is on the radar of the new government. Now I invite for the keynote address the person who has been the architect of NEGP and if we can say a person who has conceptualized the journey of e-governance in India and has been a leader in many aspects in the e-governance of the nation. I will invite Shri R. Chandrashekhar, President NASSCOM, to deliver the keynote address for today. So.
Good afternoon, friends. It's a little hard to speak on a subject like this after you have heard the policy of the Government of India, the perspective of service providers, technology providers, and you heard the ground level experience, the pleasures, the pains, and the woes of people who have actually worked in the government at the cutting edge in terms of actually using these technologies to deliver the services. And obviously I don't want to repeat what has been said, and I think in one sense that has laid out all the dimensions of cloud in the space of government. So at this juncture, let me step back a bit and present a perspective which I believe is particularly relevant in India, not only to the government and to the delivery of government services, but indeed to our very capability as a country to leverage these technologies and in a sense become a leader across the world by building on the strengths which we already have. So let me explain what I mean. It's often been said that in this era we are now witnessing the democratization of technology. And what does that mean? The example which we are already all very familiar with in India is the advent of the mobile telephony and how the cost of usage kept dropping dramatically from a level of about 30 rupees a minute to a level of 30 paise per minute. And similarly, the cost of the devices also came down, and today you can get devices at some 1,000 as a handset. And when you're talking about things like using a handheld device, a Kindle-like device, then we are talking about a tablet like Akash for a sub $50 variety. So the point is that all of these have brought down the cost to a level where even in a country like India, which is not very well developed economically, is beginning to make financial sense in terms of what is the value getting delivered and at what cost. So if we try to fast forward 5-6 years down the road, where we can imagine a situation where everybody has some kind of a device which they can use, hopefully in a language of their own, hopefully whether you know how to read or write, as long as you know how to speak, you can still get the kind of service you want. And through this, you have access to various kinds of services which today are basic to life and to the dignity of life, whether it is a good quality of education or reasonable level of health services. And I have been in the government long enough to know that this is not going to happen by government programs alone. It's going to happen and can happen, and that possibility is very real today. But it requires a complete paradigm shift in the way that we do things. And I think we heard some of the earlier speakers, and Rajiv Agarwal in particular, in terms of how a little tweak in the paradigm by which things are done has made a big difference in Maharashtra. That is with just one step where a department and an individual in a department is able to make that impact. Again, I've been in the government long enough to know that that is like the conjunction of the planets. It does happen once in a while, not that it never happens, but then if you count on that, on providing a lasting and pervasive solution, then God bless you. So what is that paradigm shift, and how do we make use of that, and what is the linkage between the democratization of technology and cloud technologies? And I think it's here where we have to also step back a moment and look at not only the government but also how the Indian industry has grown today. And today we have an industry which we can really be proud of, and indeed the country is proud of, and it has become the calling card across the world. And I won't bore you with all those statistics, and I haven't come to peddle how strong the industry is. But a 30-second background is relevant for the point I'm going to make. So what I want to mention is that we have an industry which today has a $120 billion turnover, maybe that is about 700,000 crores last year, and still growing at 15%, where the domestic economy is currently growing at below 5%, global economy at below 4%, the resurgent US economy at below 4%. And even global outsourcing is growing by only 7 or 8%. So we have a really, really strong IT industry which is world beaters, and which today command a 52% market share globally in terms of global sourcing. Is that something that we can be proud of, and is that something that represents the best? And I think the even more exciting part is not just the statistics of size and scale and capability and global share which has been reached, but the emergence of a very, very important component of that ecosystem, which is the whole startup and innovative part of the industry. Today, that portion accounts for less than 10% of the revenues of this industry. Less than 10% of this $120 billion or 700,000 crores comes from this segment. But it, in fact, accounts for 99% of the number of companies which are operating in this sector. Many of them are very smart, very bright, young people, each of whom looks at the queue in some place. The name change office that Rajesh spoke about, or the queues outside a cinema hall, or the patients from a village trying to go to a hospital or reach a doctor. They see all these problems around, and many of them are young and therefore not willing to accept that this is how it was meant to be. And they say this has to change. These are the same people who in other countries pick up stones to throw them at, some institution of governance and cause an Arab Spring or whatever kind of revolution. But there are also people who, apart from having that kind of energy, also have another quality, which is the understanding of technology, a deep understanding of the democratization that hasn't happened in technology, and how, as a result of all of these developments, it is today possible for even a couple of young people, and when I say young, I don't necessarily mean in age, I mean in the thought process. And I'm sure you can understand why I'm preferring that definition to merely age. But the fact is that these are people who are also armed with that understanding of technology and are able to combine this impatience and dissatisfaction with the technology to find solutions. And so the point I'm making is, if we can turn some of that energy to looking at all of these problems and trying to help us to find solutions and define those solutions, a lot of this revolution that has been talked about, the scale, the speed, can actually be achieved by using the skills of these young people. But that requires us to leverage this development and this convergence of the way in which technology has developed, the manner in which this ecosystem and this capability has developed in the industry, and the policy and vision of the government which has been so well articulated. This is, I believe, a unique window of opportunity for the country to evolve a fix for a lot of these problems in a manner which will both solve the problems as well as launch us into a different orbit in terms of being a provider for such solutions. At the same time, I think while trying to create room for such innovative entrepreneurial companies to come up with these kind of solutions, and that too in most of the cases without any cost to the government, and many of these, as we heard earlier, are amenable to subscription models, they are amenable to service delivery models at very, very nominal costs. And therefore, from the government perspective, you need not even get into a problem like getting into a complex RFP or getting into a heavy amount of capital expenditure, or even for that matter a recurring expenditure. People are not only prepared to spend the time to fill up their forms and do the data entry, but also in some cases they want the service, paying a nominal fee of a few rupees, 2, 3 rupees or 5 rupees is not a big deal. In fact, it's a huge saving for the people. So a lot of these things can actually be brought together by government figuring out ways of how to put all this together in a manner which makes sense to the citizen. The cloud and these technologies offer a unique opportunity to do that. At the same time, there are a certain set of concerns which is where government should focus on and be able to come out with policies not only which enable the vast amount of innovative technical capabilities which have been built in India by people whose biggest problem today is that they don't have a market. They can see a problem, they can see a solution, they can see the revenues, they can see people who are prepared to pay for it, but they have no way to connect to that. And that can only be done through a forward-looking government policy. And that is part of the overall recommendations which we have made to the government in terms of what can be done by the government to lead India into the digital India that is being talked about. So about the concerns that I was mentioning, there are also counter trends across the world where people are looking at the cloud and the data and various concerns with regard to security and privacy and so on. In some countries, this takes extreme forms of insisting on, for example, rules with regard to data localization in Europe, saying it has to be, sitting in a server in the local area. And everybody who is in IT knows that, you can be sitting on top of the server yourself, but your data is no more secure than it is from the person who's actually handling that data. But then these are trends which are brought about, and there are concerns with regard to privacy as well. So from a governmental point of view, where government has the responsibility for the data in many cases, a distinction has to be made between the kind of information and the kind of responsibility which the government bears, and how much of this can be actually enabled through the democratization of technology route and through the tapping of innovation, so that you are able to unleash the power of this segment of the industry to design solutions for the people who want to use these services. So finding the right balance between the quantum of security or privacy that is required for the data, and how much you need to control and where this data goes. And if you refer to the earlier presentation, there was talk about the private cloud, the public cloud, and the public-private cloud. And some of these, for example, the areas of education that I talked about, are areas where it really doesn't matter. You don't even need to have it sitting inside a government cloud. It can actually be sitting anywhere, because the intention ultimately is to make it freely available. We have a law which says you have a right to education, and therefore any information which is, or content which is created under that, obviously it doesn't even matter where it is located. And once those services are available across the globe, it doesn't even have to be anywhere, not just under the government, but anywhere in the country either. So a more discriminating approach to really look at the different services and see which services can be directly opened up for the innovation capability that is there in the private sector is, I think, a very important aspect of that. And creating a framework in which people can develop those applications and both provide services as well as create an opportunity for themselves out of it and create a product. Let me give you one other example. I think one of the key changes that we have been seeing in the last couple of years, and more so in the last few months in the run-up to this election, has been a much greater democratization of politics in general. And I don't mean by politics only political politics, but by politics I mean the whole basis of mobilizing people around any cause. It can be a social cause, it can be a political cause, or whatever. And the use of social media in that has therefore become a very key aspect of it. And as in the run-up to the election, we saw that it was a major tool today in political mobilization. But the question is, can it stop with social mobilization and political mobilization, or does it also have to become a part of governance itself? And how do you enable citizens who today demand and want to be more engaged in government to also be a part of that by creating such an engagement platform? And again, these are areas where the innovative capability, the technology and cloud can actually enable a lot of these solutions to come up, and they don't need to go through the conventional route by which government thinks of a project, government architects a project, and then goes through a very complicated process of inviting RFPs and execution. These are areas which actually the industry is perfectly capable of doing today. All that you need to do is to find out a way to harness it. Even the government doesn't even have to necessarily pay for any of these things. So I would certainly think that from the perspective of the industry or from the perspective of the government, but much more importantly from the perspective of the citizen, this is a golden opportunity for the country to be able to leverage all of these developments, and for us to put our heads together and think through how all of these can actually be brought together, most of which requires more of policy decisions and changes in the processes by which technology is harnessed by the government. I think this was a great opportunity today to hear different experiences from both providers and users and state governments, which I think should be clear indicators that all we need to do is to take all of this empirical evidence and put it into a framework which can actually enable us in practice to achieve the scale and speed using the skills and without, in fact, any significant costs involved. That's the golden opportunity that we stand before, and I would congratulate the organizers on having focused on this particular area, which I think is truly important for us at this juncture. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your experience. After government now showing the right way to industry in terms of the modern technologies. Thank you very much. Now I invite Dr. Ravi Gupta to present the mementos to our chief guest and other eminent speakers, and then concluding the inaugural session with the thank you note, the vote of thanks. And first to start with, Shri Tripathi. Then Shri Rajesh Agarwal. And Shri Balaji Rao. And last but not the least, the e-governance champion, Sir R. Chandrashekhar, President of NASSCOM. Thank you very much to the chief guest and all the other eminent speakers. Can we have a group photo on stage, please? So please, vote of thanks.
Just want to place a formal word of thanks to our honorable dignitaries on the dais, and also to our presenting sponsor Microsoft, our platinum sponsor VMWARE, silver sponsors HP and IMI Mobile, our lanyard sponsor FireEye, technology partner Wipro, associate sponsors C and Sendrisa, and very important, our state partner J&K and government. So with this, we will conclude the session here. I thank you all, and we are already running late, so we will straight away go into the next session of the event. Thank you so much.